But Yashwant, we have seen an unprecedented hostility. At least I don't remember it in the last few, so many elections that both you and I have looked at between the election commission and the opposition parties. We had the chief election commissioner leading a very, very aggressive press conference on the weekend, asking Rahul Gandhi to apologize in 7 days or submit proof. We've had Rahul Gandhi warning of consequences, saying one day it will be the opposition in power, and then action will be taken against officials who have enabled what he calls voter fraud. Now, when you actually asked respondents whether the EC should take quote unquote necessary actions to restore its own credibility, I was very struck by these numbers. Most of your respondents didn't, many of your respondents who are NDA voters didn't necessarily agree with Rahul Gandhi. So there was a political division there. However, your question, should the EC respond to Rahul's claim to safeguard credibility? 78.9% opposition voters said yes, but nearly 58% NDA voters also said yes. So how do we understand this?
I think voters at large want everybody to come out clean. Let's accept that. See, the common man on the street is least bothered about what Ganesh Kumar's personal equation is or what Rahul Gandhi's personal politics is. I think when you are looking at the democratic nature of elections and the process at large, and also, please, Barkha, remember that epic, for that matter, for 3 decades was the identity card Indians had, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everybody had a passport, right? For everything and anything, we were using epic, So it is not just about politics, it's about their identity as well. So people on the ground actually want everybody to come clean. They want the process to be cleaned up. They want the voter list to be cleansed up. They want the identity card to be issued without the spelling mistakes, without the address mistakes, the generic mistakes that in the computation has been happening. And I don't blame EC or anybody saying so, because yes, we know it's a Herculean task. It's a process which will involve errors and the corrections will have to be done. Number one. Public wants it to be done. Public wants everybody to come out clean. Public wants an electoral roll which everybody can trust and look on and like that. So yes, the fact is that people will support largely SIR if it eventually cleans up the process. But people will not support it if it is something which they feel they are being hassled, number one, or they feel that the process is unduly designed to help somebody this way or that way. Now, that is the question where the opposition is hitting, and that is what I guess it's getting into a territory, uncharted and actually very, very unfortunate territory, where it is becoming a personal battle of ego between LOP and the CEC. And that's uncalled for, I think, largely because, Barkha, Chief Election Commissioner Ganesh Kumar probably took it personally, which everybody is saying, being on a constitutional post, he should have been more legal in his words rather than taking it personally. But when was the last time the LOP said the CEC is Chor? Now, that is something, Barkha, me, you, anybody, if somebody says you are Chor, might take it personally. So that's the unfortunate part of it, which should have been avoided. If the idea was to cleanse the roll, idea was to point certain, ways of certain things which were avoidable, I think it should have been a process which would have brought the electoral reforms or cleansing or the next round of biometric identification of the electoral roll and all those kind of things. But it didn't start with that, because the entire campaign was aimed to discredit the process and discredit CEC. And it is not a new thing, Barkha. It started with discrediting EVMs for the last 15 years by anybody and everybody who was losing the election, including LK Advani, by the way. So we have criticized everybody on that ground. But it has now reached to a situation where that CEC is Chor or Election Commission is Chor. I think it's unfortunate.
But if I were to, but what you're saying is that, as you said, it's becoming a personal battle of egos between the LOP and CEC, and both need to be more temperate in their language, in their response. But if we were to look at the response to your C voter survey, most people do want the EC to take necessary action, right? Corrective action. Hence, I wonder, when Rahul Gandhi first did his press conference, looking at Karnataka as the example, the EC could have, instead of asking for an affidavit, said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We will inquire and let you know." Suppose they had just said that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you are saying. Yes. I mean, that would have been a diplomatic way of saying that, okay, thank you for, and you are just actually to take it one step ahead, Barkha, what you are saying. Thank you for saying, and this is precisely what we are trying to do in SIR. So support the SIR. It could have been done that. I think where it went wrong, Barkha, was that EC took it personally, the allegation of chor and that kind of language. It is a political language. It might have, okay, a campaign of Chaukidar Chor hai, because it was a political campaign. EC Chor hai is not a political campaign per se. It's not an electoral campaign. So it might have hurt Ganesh Kumar, who is not a politician. So, but people want everybody to come clean. That is right. So when he was targeted, or when he felt he was targeted personally, he came out all gun blazing, saying that, either apologize or give the proof. I think everybody has to de-escalate here, because this is a flight which easy to take off, Barkha, but no runway to land. Because what is the end game here? Everybody has to understand what is the end game here. You cannot remove CEC. He has a constitutional post. Mahabhiyog le aiye, but you do not have the number in the parliament. All right. What happens after that? Is the CEC gonna go away? No, he's gonna remain there. Number two, unlike many other, not all the opposition parties have agreed to what Congress has said on the EVMs. We have seen that. And they may or they may not agree on Mahabhiyog on those kind of things with the Congress, as and when that happens. Yesterday, I believe that a Congress spokesperson said that it was a individual opinion of a member of parliament, not Congress. Congress as an organization hasn't said that they want to impeach CEC. But I also read news report that they were talking, and many opposition parties, on how to go about the impeachment motion and the legalities of it. If that happens, what is the end game? That's what I'm trying to understand. At the end of the day, if you will say, okay, we do not believe this election commission, we do not have any trust in Ganesh Kumar, so we will boycott elections till he is removed. Is that the end game? And if you boycott the election, is it going to serve the purpose? Is it like what Dhaka model that we are talking about, boycott the election and then say that India has become undemocratic? And most importantly, will the opposition parties who are ruling their own states and easily winning their election comprehensively, will they participate and say that, we will not? Why should Mamata Banerjee, who is sitting pretty, say that I will not participate in elections, I will boycott election? Why should Stalin say that I will boycott the election? Why would Akhilesh, for that matter, or Tejashwi, for that matter, who are
But Akhilesh did submit affidavits from earlier in parliament. He said, देखिए, EC keeps saying affidavit submit करो. ये देखिए, हमने submit किया, EC ने कुछ नहीं किया. So I think that is an appropriate way to express your disagreement, right?
Put it on parliament, make a probe committee, ask for the accountability from the election commission, go to the public, ask those things, ask uncomfortable questions, make them accountable. That's fine. That's what the process should look like. That's why you have to support the SIR in a nationwide scale. That's why you have to bring in the next round of electoral reforms, where you make it compulsory to connect the EPIC with the Aadhaar and other biometric things, so that the voter fraud. And by the way, Barkha, this is one interesting thing which I must say on the voter roll thing. Couple of things. Everybody knows there are problems with voter list. Number one, I got one after the from Lucknow to Delhi and Delhi to Ghaziabad, 3 different voter I cards whenever, I shifted my thing every time. Every time there was some or other spelling mistake in my voter I card. You know, my my dad's name was spelled wrong. My address was at the time written wrong. My name was spelled wrong. So yeah, everybody knows that voter I cards have the data issues and other issues. That's fine. Second thing, about the cleansing of this thing, that how many people died, how many people, we should not forget that post 1991, this country has witnessed massive internal migration in terms of urbanization. There are huge number of migrant voters who keep on changing their address between their home state and working state from season to season. For big number of voters, when they move, they do not get their names chopped off, either intentionally or by mistake. Intentionally also, because in a very mundane way, Barkha, easy to understand, जो गांव छोड़ करके शहर में काम करने आता है, वो गांव में केवल इसलिए वोट रखता है क्योंकि उसके पास में वही आईडी होता है, खेत का, बाकी चीजों का, to inherit those lands and everything. Nobody wants to basically dilute that identity card over there, and at the same time they want to vote, participate in the election in the new place. So this India's migration story is fascinating. The urbanization and urban migration story is no less than 20 to 30%. We ask this question in our tracker, by the way, every day. If I show you that graph, you will be amazed to see that there are about more than 25% voters who actually say the place they are in is not the place where they were born.
But does this migration possibly explain what the opposition is calling, an addition sometimes in a state between the Lok Sabha and the Assembly elections? Right? For example, Maharashtra has.
Yeah, in Maharashtra, for example, it cannot, barring the fact that if you are getting in new voters into the list and explaining it,
Yeah.
like for example, the numbers which are deleted. Now, deleted if it is deleted by the SIR. Now, if deleted, and if it was not given to you after deletion, and you had objected to it, then you have a case. But when it was deleted or it was added to that, and if your agent has given approval to that list on each and every booth, if you have 45 days of time to complain, you did not complain, and you have accepted those lists, your agents have accepted those lists, then it's a problem somewhere, So I'm not saying that EC should not come clean, or the SIR should not go ahead, or the process should not be made transparent. But just to come out only in the places where you lost the election, that is a selective bias. I mean, what the process is required is an all India proper SIR with biometrics to overcome all these challenges and make this elections.
What about the argument that Yogendra Yadav, who has appeared in the court, others have made, that it is predominantly the poor and the marginalized who will be falling short of some of this documentation? And the spirit of India's democracy is to include as many people as is legally possible in an election, right? Obviously, legality cannot be compromised. But always, you and I are more likely to have a passport than somebody who works in a home as a domestic help, right? That's just the nature of class reality.
Correct.
So how do we address that issue?
I think that's also a misconception, Barkha, because the way in the last 15 years all the Labharti Yojanas have been panned out by the state and the central government, you will be surprised to know that today the documents with the bottom of the pyramid mass has much more over there than, because they apply for all these schemes with these documents. So if you look into even the CSDS survey where these points were raised, you will be surprised to see that among one of the highest blocks are also the scheduled tribes, who have more documents than even the upper caste voters in many of the places. So what I'm simply trying to say that while it should be ensured that nobody from, particularly from the bottom of the pyramid, should be left out. And this one point which I found pretty interesting from Ganesh Kumar's press conference was the address of zero, that even the homeless are given the address as a zero, which honestly I never knew that. I mean, that was a news for me. I never knew that process, that where the zero come. I also thought that it was something,
Some anomaly. Even I thought it was an anomaly. Yeah.
but now we know that it's actually a process, that those who are homeless, or for that matter, Barkha, in majority of the villages, the homes do not have number. What is the address? If you send a post to, generally the address in India is Barkha Dutt, Gram and Post so and so, Jila ye.
Yeah.
There is no house number in the villages. So if there is no house number in plenty of the villages, then the house number in the form there. I didn't know it. That is the process. I'm so glad, and this is why regular press
Briefings.
conferences and public education is so critical. This is why it is so critical. To let people know, Election Commission should be holding many more press conferences like that to at least tell how it goes and how it happens.
So let me end with this debate around the credibility of the Election Commission and the CSDS survey as published in the Hindu on this. But before that, one of our regular viewers, Prasad Duvuri, says, Barkha, when the CEC stressed multiple times in his presser on Sunday that they are there to protect the rights of citizens, he should have used the high ground instead of getting personal. I think this is something that everybody is saying, that why such aggression from the head of a constitutional body.
Agreed. I mean, and that's where we started. That it seems like a personal battle now, and what I feel like he became personal largely because I mean, if any IAS officer who is honest and sitting on thing, and if the campaign runs on Chor, that person might not feel good about it. So while asking Ganesh Kumar why he is getting personal, one should also give a thought that the Chor campaign, that vote Chor, is also maybe felt by the 3 election commissioners as a personal campaign against them. That why election commission is being called Chor. आप किसी को चोर बोलेंगे तो वो भी पर्सनल ले सकता. I think both ways it was unfortunate. I think running the campaign on Chor was unfortunate against the election commission. And I think election commission taking to that level of, going, they could have been more legal and diplomatic in the way they said about the things, and drawn a larger line, larger, as you said, just go ahead and thank them, that thank you very much.
Yeah.
These are exactly the issues we are trying to clean up in SIR, and precisely the issues. Because if it's funny thing, when we look into Rahul Gandhi's press conference and the PPT, the items which he has written, how many dead voters, how many displaced voters, these are precisely the things which SIR is reporting. How many among the 65, how many duplicate voters, precisely the numbers, precisely the things. So if these two agendas are confluencing, if those two agendas are like it's odd and ironical to see what CEC is working in SIR and what Rahul Gandhi is asking him to do are the same thing. If they are the same thing, essentially, Barkha, then where is the problem?
Well, Rahul Gandhi would not agree with that, but I think it'll be interesting to see how much of an issue, as you have pointed out, this becomes on the ground in the campaign. I want to end by picking up the CSDS data on the credibility and the trust in the Election Commission. If we can bring those slides up. This is, of course, by states, and there's a very different set of responses when it comes to moderate trust and high trust, because in places moderate trust is increased, for example in Bengal, but high trust is declined. It's kind of confusing. But if you look at the overall slide of CSDS, they say, if you have that slide, I think they say 9% do not trust the EC at all, and 16% trust it somewhat. And then there's a large chunk that continues to believe that the Election Commission will still do its job. Now, how do you look at this debate around trust in the EC?
Well, even in this number, which is like more than 2/3 of Indians actually trust the EC, but that number has come down in their own previous poll by some point. So it is like saying that the trust level has gone down, but still huge majority chunk of the Indians actually trust the election commission. So both the statements are correct, Barkha. Both the statements are correct, but that's not the full picture. When you are showing that graphic, you will also read two funny things. The confidence of election commission has gone up in Bengal. Just the number.
If we go back to it, when I looked at Bengal, you see, if you look at that, level of moderate trust has gone up, level of high trust has come down.
It's slightly come down, 48 to 50 to 42. So it went up and came down. But in survey sciences, whenever you say take the net thingy, generally the high and the moderate are combined together. The numbers swing between these two. Any drop should be considered alarming. I'm not denying that. Any drop should be. An election commission should look into it and say that okay, even if there is a high to moderate going, it is not a good news for election commission. They should work on it. But I am also looking at the fact, Barkha, India has become highly polarized on many things, and a lot of political campaign does have the impact on to and fro on how people are reacting to it. At the same time, wherever the opposition is winning, in Bengal they have won. So people do not have any problem because those who are voting for, they feel that they are counted for. In Tamil Nadu, they do not have a problem, But wherever the opposition feels that they are not winning, probably because of this campaign, a lot of their voters might be feeling, "Yaar, kuch to gadbad hai, nahi to yahan pe bhi hamare yahan pe bhi hum jeet gaye hote." It's that kind of thing. Now that doubt is something which is not new, Barkha, because we have seen for 25-30 years, every time who is losing the election, very rarely I have seen people say, accepting fair and square that we lost. Chalo, haar gaye, nobody's fault. There will be always some finger pointing. Ye hera feri hui hai, dhandli hui hai, gadbad kiya gaya hai, like that. People at large do not believe that. People at large. But when you make a sustained campaign out of it, when you make the political differences to such an extreme that you start raising your fingers at the bodies as well and make a campaign, political campaign out of it, then if your supporters start feeling you are saying the right thing, elections are garbad, kuch jhol hua hai, kuch garbad hua hai, then this full trust starts going into moderate trust. That something is missing. कुछ तो है, राहुल गांधी इतना कह रहे हैं, जरूर कोई तो कुछ तो हुआ है, Now, it's for the election commission to restore that trust. I understand it might be frustrating for them to say कि यार ये तो हमारा political भी नहीं है, हमारे ऊपर आरोप लगा दिया, अब हम अपना. But I believe that at the end of the day, politicians का काम है आरोप लगाना, बरखा. Institutions का काम है अपने तरीके से उसको चलाना और उसके आरोपों में न पड़ते हुए अपनी लाइन को लंबा खींचना. And I genuinely believe and pray that election commission does the SIR in a very, very good way in Bihar, so that once the Bihar voters give a thumb approval that okay, we did not have any issues with SIR and we could not find any problem in SIR and Bihar elections go well, then this trust for moderate will go to high again. But at some point of time, this personal attack has to be brought down in the larger
absolutely
democracy. It's not healthy, it's not good, because claim and counter claim set aside, politics aati jati rehti, but at the end of the day, if the institutions get affected by that, either by the politicians campaigning against them or election commission retaliating in that way, it will be unfortunate. I just hope ECI focus more on the SIR and more on the line. They have to be the neutral umpire, play the bigger game, not to take it personally, not to go into that. होगा पॉलिटिकल कैंपेन होगा, चलने दीजिए, अपना ध्यान SIR पे कीजिए, बिकॉज अगर आपने SIR अच्छा कर दिया और इलेक्शन सही ढंग से कंप्लीट करा दिए तो ट्रस्ट वाले क्वेश्चन को अपने आप हाशिए पे चला जाएगा. आई डोंट थिंक पीपल आर गोइंग टू वॉच मोर ऑन दैट.
I completely agree with you, because one of the things that separates our democracy from, let's say, the American democracy more recently is that, notwithstanding a few arguments ki kaun kaise jeeta, kaise hara, there is a graceful आप जीते, congratulations, हम हारे, अगली बार introspect करेंगे. This used to be the way of India to call into question election results and to have this sort of breakdown between the election commission and the leader of the opposition. It cannot augur well for our democracy.